Okay, I just wanted to record this because I was talking about this sensitive skin flap which is prone to being cut. This is a situation where the hair is quite matty around it, so the clippers are not going to glide through easily. So what I'm going to do is, right now I've got a skip tooth blade on my clipper, which is never use a skip tooth blade around that flap. These are really dangerous and around sensitive areas like that. They're good for along the bodies, especially when you've got matting, but you don't want to put it down here where it's likely to cut. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change that blade. Okay, so I have changed now to a finishing blade. This is a 5F finishing blade. I know it's pretty sharp because I've just brought it back from the sharpener, so I'm going to have to be extra careful. Now, it's going to be difficult for me to hold the camera and demonstrate, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to support that flap with my hands. It's hard to see it because of all the fluff, and I'm going to make sure with my fingers I know exactly where that flap is, supporting it out as I attempt to clip off this matting. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do it and record it, but I'll show you the results after. I'm going to use the same outward motion that I used with the unmatted dog, where you're going down but you're pulling your blade out away from the skin. You never do it, if I can do it this way, you don't go this way, because this is the way that usually catches the skin and continues to tear it and makes a long triangular tear. And of course you don't go this way either. You're going to go down and with an outward motion like that, and I'll show you when I'm finished. Okay, so we've gone down with the 5. The 5 actually went through it. Had it not, I would have moved down to a 7. If that hadn't gone, I would have gone an 8.5, and if that hadn't gone through, I would have had to go with a 10. You go with the shortest blade, or the longest blade that will go through it without being endangering the dog. And I'll just do a bit of scissor trimming to kind of tidy that a little bit more. Always, when I'm scissor trimming, I always make sure my fingers are on the skin flap so I know exactly where it is. Now, when a dog is matted, they are more prone to getting nicks and cuts in them. But a groomer should never use that as an excuse. Well, your dog was matted and that's why it got cut. And I've heard that quite a few times. Always we should be taking as much precaution as possible to prevent any accidents. And what I do in my grooming situation is I have a matted dog consent form so that owners are aware before I even start work on the dog that there is a greater risk due to matted hair. So matted hair can accidentally cause you to pick up the skin, which is, as you can see, is quite loose and picks up really easily from the dog. That's why I have this matted pet release form, which basically just explains that matted dogs can be more prone to things such as clipper rash or accidental cuts, and gives the owner an awareness, as well as protecting myself if there is an accident. So the next step is going to be around here. I'm just going to scissor to tidy it because there's still a few sort of loose bits. And we're working on some pom-poms on the legs right now, but they still need quite a bit of shaping before we are done. This dog is a party poodle, which means she is part one colour and part another. Not that she goes to a lot of parties, although she probably is a bit of a party animal. And her name is Amy. Hi, Amy! Amy as in Amy Farrah Fowler from The Big Bang Theory. And this is her partner, Sheldon Cooper. Hi, Sheldon. I'll be back when I'm finished. Okay, so this little doggy here is a little bit matted. What I did at first is I just sort of scissored off the top of it, just so that I could get in there and separate the hair a little bit. And I'm going through it with the 4 skip blade, which is actually going through without causing much distress to the dogs. When I come down to the leg though, Let me show you your leg. Her leg has quite a lot of knots in it, and I probably am going to have to go shorter, such as a 5 or a 7 in the leg, because I don't think the 4 is going to go through it. But we'll see how we go here. She's actually tolerating it quite well, and we're hoping to get her all fixed up. Ah, girl. Good girl. Okay, so pre-clip is pretty much done. I just wanted to mention that as you're pre-clipping, always try to support the skin, like stretch it a little bit, so as you're going down with the clippers, you've got this supported so that it's not sort of dragging on the coat as much and dragging on the skin as much. So if I had my clippers going, I'd be going down like this with one hand, and the other hand I'd be holding the skin just to support it. And she's ready to pop in the bath now, so we get her nice and clean, and then we'll do a good finishing clip. Okay, so our Shih Tzu is all washed and ready to be dried off, and then we're going to give her a good finishing clip and a tidy. All the mats are now out of her, so the hard part's over. See you when she's dry. Okay, so as I'm starting to groom this little dog named Goldie, I just wanted to talk about some of the reasons and why a dog gets matted, and a little bit of talk about prevention. This dog got matted because she had a little dog coat left on, and it wasn't taken off for a couple of weeks, and then when it finally was taken off, we realized that she was just all tangled up. She also has what we call a combination coat, which is, she's part Cavalier, which is a shedding dog, and part Maltese and Poodle, which are both non-shedding dogs. So therefore you get a combination coat which can be prone to matting if it's just left, especially with a dog coat on. I don't recommend brushing your dog every day, because what it does is it tends to frizzle and frazzle the hair and fluff it out to where it actually is more prone to mat than not. So what I recommend is check your dog every day to make sure there are no knots in it. Brush maybe 2-3 times a week. Keep your dog clean and use doggy conditioner in the coat when you do wash, especially in the ears and the tail where matting and knotting can happen quite a bit. Just like your own hair, if you don't condition it, it can be more prone to matting. Okay, right here I showed that I was moving from a number 5 blade to a number 7 blade because the 5 was struggling to go through the hair, and for the well-being of the dog, I've moved to a 7 so that it will go through more easily, especially down the legs where the matting was much more solid on her. And as we go, we just keep sort of working at that coat. You can see that it was quite a lot just clumping together, and we're just gradually working away trying to get the mats off of her so she's ready for a bath. She was actually pretty clean. Going down the shoulders and the legs, here's a good demonstration of how I'm supporting the skin with one hand and stretching it a little bit as I clip with the other hand, and this prevents loose skin from kind of puckering up and getting caught in the clippers. It makes a nice smooth surface for you to work your clippers down through the mats. And it also helps to kind of reassure the dog a little bit that you're there. So you're just putting a reassuring hand on your dog. Now I have to get her to stand for this, and she's an older dog that she's about 16, this dog, and she's actually a breast cancer survivor. So she had a surgery about 3 years ago to remove some breast cancer lumps, and she has since been in a remission. Because of her age, she has a bit of arthritis and sort of creaky joints. I'm just pulling away the hair there. So standing is not as easy for an older dog like this. So I'm supporting her with my hand as I'm going down the skin flap that we talked about earlier that can be prone to being cut. I'm making sure my hand is right there to know exactly where it is. And just working my clippers carefully through the knots that are in that area. She's just not wanting to stay standing up while I clip down the legs. Clipping down the legs is quite irritating for many dogs because it's right on the bone and it causes a vibration on their bone and not comfortable for them. She isn't wanting to stay standing up, no matter how hard I'm trying here. She's like, nope, if I sit you can't do it. But we got to get those knots out, so moving down the legs there. So what I do is I get my dog harness. This is made by a company called Black Dog, and it's a nice snug way to encourage the dog to stay standing so that we can finish the work. It's padded nicely under her so it can't damage her underneath. This keeps her standing while I clip these back legs and around her bottom. So I'm just working through the knots here. She's standing up quite nicely there now for me. Just getting the legs finished. And then we're going to pop her in the bath, give her a good wash condition, and we'll follow it up with another clip just to even out any uneven bits and a bit of scissoring on the legs. So here she is in the bath, looking kind of miserably wet. This is the shampoo that I use on the face. It's a tearless shampoo, so it helps around their eyes. Because clipping can cause a clipper rash, I use this extra gentle, soothing shampoo as well, which has oatmeal in it, and especially around the groin and areas that are prone to clipper rash, we really smother that on when we've had to do a Matted Dog clip, or even when we haven't. And I'll show you what she looks like when she's finished. Good dog treat. Out of the way. Howdy.